don't have enough time to tell you the story about St. Louis, but that was, we wound up practicing in the middle of in the middle of night for them. And the police came, we were at a high school, and the police pulled up, and we were disturbing the peace. So we summarily had to stop practice and go back to our hotel. So the police actually pushed us off. We were out there at 3 o'clock in the morning, but to us with the 5-hour time differential, it was only 10. So we got told to leave. Local guys, it snowed. There were snow flurries that night, and the local guys were going absolutely insane. They saw a bunch of them never seen snow before, so they're yelling, they're screaming, they're jumping up and down. It was pretty raucous. It was a lot of fun.
David, thank you for speaking with me. So just wanted to know, where you're from, and could you give us some background?
Sure. The south side of the city of Chicago, a community called Englewood, which is in the news of late, or the last several years, is probably one of the most violent areas in the city of Chicago. I lived there until I graduated, or I lived there through college. I went home every summer, and I lived in that community until I got married when I was 21, and then I left for Hawaii, and I stayed there till January, almost February of 1975.
Okay.
So that, yeah, I went to a Catholic school that was in the community. I went to an all-boy Catholic school that was also approximately a mile from my home. So South Side City, Chicago.
Okay. And I guess, how did you hear about the University of Hawaii? And
well, that's somewhat, it isn't, I was all league in a very strong high school football league back then in the late 60s, early 70s, all area honorable mention, all state, so on and so forth. And I got a little bit of interest from the lower tier of the Big Ten schools, but I'm not a very tall guy. I was an offensive lineman, barely 6 feet tall, and they went for the taller guys. So I actually had 2 offers. One was from Utah State, and the other one was the University of Hawaii. And a friend of mine had an offer that he had accepted to Hawaii. So I thought to myself, well, there is strength in numbers, so we went out there together. And that's pretty much what happened. How the dynamics of how it actually occurred was through a connection with a coach by the name of Cal Murphy, who was a positional coach. He's in the Canadian Football League Hall of Fame, a long storied career in professional football. And he was the point man that came to Chicago to try and get the kids that couldn't quite make the cut for the Big Ten. That's what he kind of preyed upon, or that's what he sought to recruit. And I was one of those guys.
that's great. So how was your recruiting trip like?
There was no recruiting trip. It's sight unseen, and you dealt strictly with whatever pamphlets or literature, which was even light back then, that they sent you in the mail.
Okay.
So it was fingers crossed. I'd never been on an airplane before. I'd never been west of the Mississippi River before. I came from a pretty sparse background, so there wasn't a lot of money in my household. So bottom line on it is, I got on that plane and I flew out there August 3rd, 1970 for the very first time on a plane.
Oh, wow. Okay. And so as a student athlete, could you tell us about your experience as a student athlete?
Well, I attempted as hard as I could to be an athlete. The student part, I think, left a little bit to be desired. I was, let's just say, I had my priorities somewhat confused, and my intention was to, even though I was a fairly intelligent guy by all your testing standards, your ACT, SAT, all that stuff, I went to school to stay eligible to play. So I pretty much wound up with a 2.0 until a 2.0 average, which was enough to get by. the light went on my senior year. I then ventured into the School of Education, got a 4.0 grade point average, and I left there with a degree in education.
And is that what you eventually
That's
did as
that's what I embarked when I came back in 1975 to Chicagoland area. I went back to my former high school, and I taught there and served as assistant and head football coach for the next 5 years. And then I pursued another 4 years full-time as a teacher and a coach at a very well-known Midwest high school called Mount Carmel, which has got 12 or 14 large school state titles. We won the first. I was fortunate enough to be there when we won the first one back in 1980. And that, shortly thereafter, I embarked on a business career.
Oh, that's great. And I hear you're a grandfather, and
5 times.
5 times. Okay, so very successful.
All between the ages of 8 and 6.
Okay.
There's 3 of them on my son, and my daughter has twins, so it's quite a crew because of the age grouping.
Got it.
They're all there, 8, 7, 6.
Well, congratulations. So wanted to talk about some of your playing days at University of Hawaii. Currently there's some questions or uncertainty about the new stadium that's going to be built and the timing, and there's actually a potential for on-campus playing of football at the University of Hawaii, but playing at the Honolulu Stadium, which is not far from campus, maybe you can talk about some of that game day experience, maybe the feeling of the days leading up to a big game, and then how you prep for the game and how you got there and so forth.
Well, I would probably say during my tenure, for the most part, we beat who we were supposed to beat, and we lost to the teams that obviously were a lot more talented. And I'm talking about the Nebraskas, the Stanfords, the Tennessees, a handful of others. The stadium experience was very unique. However, according to the record book, probably my last year, which was 1973, we averaged right around 19,000 in attendance for the 9 home games. We only traveled twice a year. We played the remaining portion of the schedule at home. And, we went in 70, we went 9-2, then we went 7-4, then we went 8-3. And then my final year, we went 9-2. I was fortunate enough to suit up, but did not play my freshman year. Back then, you were given an option to play in a game as a freshman, which I was given. However, if you burned that year and there still wasn't freshman eligibility, in the event that you might make a bowl game, you would not be allowed to participate in that bowl. So I weighed that out. Even though it was very remote possibility, I still wanted the chance that if it ever came up to play in something my senior year, I'd rather forego the last 2 minutes of mop-up time in a game that didn't matter for just to say I played. The stadium itself, even though referred as a termite palace, I quite honestly can tell you, I never saw a termite. I did not know what a termite looked like, but I don't know that I saw any bugs in the termite palace.
Okay. And maybe give you a little story, just real brief. My dad lived near the termite palace stadium, and he would tell me about how him and his best friends would walk to the games, and it was a big part of their young adulthood, let's just say.
Well, it's a possibility we cross paths. One thing about it, you mentioned that it was so close to the campus. When we would leave the field, the little kids would pour onto the field and chase you as you walked to the locker room, asking you for your chin strap. And so typically guys would give their chin straps to them, and it was a big deal to them. But, family and friends would come out of the stands with the local guys. And so they had the bus waiting outside next to the stadium to take that short, not even 1 mile bus ride back to the locker room. I would probably say myself and a couple other guys, we used to just walk back down University Avenue, then go underneath H1, then go through the back parking lot of lower campus and walk back to the locker room many times, because you could still be sitting on that bus all sweaty and tired. And, it only took you maybe 10 minutes to walk back to the locker room, 15 minutes tops.
Right.
So that was common.
Oh, that's great. Okay. I saw some of one thing about the stadium, like, as far as the crowd noise and things of that, like, did it get pretty loud and raucous?
No, it was a pretty sedate group. Now, the configuration of the old stadium, it was a baseball field. So the home stands, the sidelines that we were on, closest to the school, there was probably 20, 25, maybe even 30 yards between the bench and where the grandstand was. So if you take an aerial look at it, you were a long way away from those fans. Now, in the other end zone was in the home plate portion. There were very few stands there, but when you went to the other end, I was a center. There were times I huddled in the end zone and I could hear people. They were so close to me there, I could hear them talking, and of course hear them yelling things. But you were no more than maybe 15 yards at best from where you were standing on the field to where fans were sitting in the stands. They were right there.
I got it. Yeah.
It was loud enough. It was loud enough. But back then, 19,000 people or 20,000 people, that's a very large audience for almost any university, excluding, the Big Ten and the Pac-8 as it was known back then, or the Pac-12 as it's known now. 20,000 people is a lot of people for that brand of football. It was good support.
Good. So, I wanted to talk to you about the 1971 season where #1 Nebraska, fresh off a win against #2 Oklahoma the week or a couple of weeks before, called the Great Game or something like that.
It was the Friday after Thanksgiving, or was Thanksgiving Day. We went over to a coach's house for turkey dinner. We were all there. And strangely enough, I was a sophomore. My teammate and my high school teammate and my college teammate, we had committed a minor disciplinary infraction. So that particular day, we were kept after practice, and we had to run like 15 or 20 100-yard sprints as a little reminder that we were out of line on this infraction that we had committed. So anyway, we went over to the coach's house, we watched the game, and I was totally convinced we could play with these guys. And I was always optimistic. I always said we could play with these guys. So I was a sophomore. What I would do, there was a senior by the name of Bill Kai. Bill Kai was the starting center. His son is a grad assistant with the university now, Koa Kai. Okay. His father was a senior center, and I was a sophomore center. He would play a quarter, I would play a quarter. He would play a quarter, I would play a quarter. So I was actually in that game. And what I'm known for with some of my older teammates, because I was probably the youngest guy on the offense at any point in that particular game, I had like 3 snap infractions where I jerked the ball and I got flagged for moving the ball ahead of the quarterback cadence. And they never let me forget that. They always bring it up. But I was playing across a guy by the name of Rich Glover, who is on the collegiate all-time football team. That was my opponent that day. So it was a great experience. We lost 45-3, but the stats weren't all that bad. And when we walked off the field, they came up to us and said, we have more talent, but I'll tell you, that they were in a physical football game the entire day. We just didn't have the talent that they had. So it was a lot of fun. I think we had probably 25,000 people. I still have one of the red cowboy hats that their fans used to wear. I've got it around the house here somewhere. But it was a fantastic memory.
And yeah, they ended up beating Alabama in the Orange Bowl and being #1 and undefeated for the season.
crushed Alabama. I really couldn't believe, after having played against them, that they were so dominant. But I don't necessarily think the energy level that they brought to us was the same energy level they brought that particular day.
Got it. So the following year, I think 1972, Hawaii played at Tennessee.
Correct.
Yeah. Did you go on that trip?
Oh yeah. I missed one game in my 3-year career due to an injury. It was I can't remember. It was like the third game of the season. I think Tennessee. We got Tennessee because the team that was supposed to play them abruptly had canceled the game, so they needed an opponent. We happened to have an open date, so we went there. We lost 33-2, I believe it was, and it was a fantastic experience being in Neyland Stadium. There were some 65,000 people there. And it took us nearly 2 days to get there because we flew from Honolulu to San Francisco, from San Francisco to St. Louis. We don't have enough time to tell you the story about St. Louis, but we wound up practicing in the middle of in the middle of night for them. And the police we were at a high school, and the police pulled up, and we were disturbing the peace. So we summarily had to stop practice and go back to our hotel. So the police actually pushed us off. We were out there at 3 o'clock in the morning, but to us, with the 5-hour time differential, it was only 10. So we got told to leave. Local guys, it snowed. There were snow flurries that night, and the local guys were going absolutely insane. They saw a bunch of them, never seen snow before, so they're yelling, they're screaming, they're jumping up and down. It was pretty raucous. It was a lot of fun.
And you being from Chicago, like, yeah, it was a big deal.
Yeah, but it was amusing seeing guys react. And,
Yeah.
You know how just the reaction was memorable.
Yeah, that's great. And so the following year, your last year, looked like some big wins, close wins over at Washington.
Right.
And I think you guys beat Fresno State and also a squeaker, UNLV and Utah at the end of the season.
Correct.
You guys had a great record.
Well, there's a backstory behind 2 games that we did lose that we never should have lost. And there was quite a swirl of rumors regarding those interceptions and possibly some behavior regarding gambling that might have occurred. So that for the old timers, they remember the rumors that happened. But anyway, we beat Washington at Washington. That was I went out after we won that game. I went out with my good a teammate who was sitting out that year due to injury. His brother, who was in the Navy, that was stationed up in Seattle, and one of the assistant coaches. We were out all night. We lost track of time, and by the time we realized what time it was, I got back to the hotel, not in too good a condition, by the way, due to some things I may have consumed during the evening celebrating. But guys were getting on the bus with their equipment. I was going into the hotel to get my equipment, but nothing happened to me because I was with one of the assistant coaches. So I don't know what was said to him, but nothing was ever said to me. I almost missed the bus to take us to the airport to bring us home that night. It was Sunday morning, actually.
Oh.
It was a great game. It was a great game.
Yeah.
A lot of fun memories.
Yeah, that story, it would be like one of my recurring nightmares of missing the bus to go to the airport. So thanks for bringing it back up.
Kyle, in the condition I was in, if I recall, I was kind of like, I really didn't know a lot about what was going on. I'm just lucky that being a senior and having that experience, I think they just let us off.
Got it. Okay. Well, yeah, just wanted to kind of get some shed some light on some playing days, because I tried to do some research on Honolulu Stadium and the days prior to Coach Larry Price. I think David Holmes was the coach.
Correct.
And I've heard stories from my dad, but it was from an era that maybe preceded me, and so I didn't have a lot of background. So I really appreciate you sharing with me, and also we can I can send you the video, and I'll edit it with some pictures of players and send it.
One thing about and this is rather common. I never ever, not one time, had a conversation with Dave Holmes. Not once. You always, that used to be the thing. You were always insulated from having a conversation from the head coach. You strictly talked to your positional coach or those assistant coaches on that side of the ball, whatever you played on. The only time I ever had any interaction with Dave Holmes personally was when myself and my teammate got in a little trouble, and we were told to go and see him, and he summarily said, "Get the hell out of my office. I don't have time for your BS." That was it. That was right before a game too. It was right before a game. We thought we were going to get kicked off the team. We thought all kinds of things. That's the only time I really had a one-on-one exchange with the head coach in 4 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was but that's kind of the way it was back then.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing. Possibly one day I'd love to talk to you about more nuggets of life and things like that. But for the purpose of this, just wanted to kind of focus on your playing days and so forth.
Sure. Well, good luck, this endeavor. And as far as stories, we get together with the guys that I played with. There, we were together in Seattle. Be a year and a half. The season prior to this past one, so it'd be coming up on 2 years. And there were probably 20 or 25 of us, of which I'm one of the younger guys. I was a sophomore. These guys were juniors and seniors, and some of them were ahead of those guys. But my memory of a lot of things is crystal clear, as if it happened yesterday. If you put a picture in front of me of, these players, these guys that we were with, I can almost dead 100% name every single one of them, something about them. And the other guys go, "I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is." So my memory is very functional and very clear regarding a lot of these things, but I'm kind of known for that. So anyway, there are a lot of memories up there for sure.
Okay. Hey, David, I don't know if your connection.
You still there?
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you. You're frozen to me. Can you see the ball though? Got the ball. Can you see me, David? Uh-oh. Oh, I see you now. Yes. You're on mute though. So unmute.
Okay, there we go.
So yeah, here's the ball.
That's the infamous ball. Well, no matter what happens, don't lose it. It's got some value. It's got some. I'm trying to think of a word. Sentimental value.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.